Hey guys, how you all doing? I'm going to start today with 3 games that have been submitted to me. These we're going to look at completely fresh. I haven't seen these games before, but I've been told they're all fairly entertaining. So we've got 3. We're going to go up in rating, and the first one is from my buddy Thin White Duke 85, and who is playing the white pieces, both players in the 800 to 900 range. E4, E5, let's see what we got. The Vienna game, love it. Okay, now this is kind of quiet. This is kind of quiet. I'll probably bring my bishop out here. Knight F3 is also good. Okay, and the bishop comes out now to pin the knight. Knight comes out, so we've got 4 knights game. The Spanish variation now. So all 4 knights are out, and it's Spanish because the bishop is here on b5. It would be Italian style if the bishop was on c4. All right. So anyway, so this could come from the reload pairs and then the knights come out. Like Berlin defense with the knight out. Anyway, so white castles. Black comes in with a threat by the knight. Now, beginnerish move, I think, h3, and I'll explain why. Because this knight is not actually threatening anything right now. So one thing that beginners do, and that you see a lot less with more advanced players, is beginners react to a threat that isn't actually imminent. All right, now, this is quite subtle, but kicking this knight doesn't have to be kicked away, because if it captures there, king just takes. If it goes there, king or rook takes, right? And should, let's say, pawn moves or this knight moves, something like that, suddenly the knight's under attack as well. Yeah, it's defended by the bishop right now, but it's not an imminent threat, and the queen can't come to here with ideas of checkmating because this knight is defending those squares. So I don't think h3 is necessary. I'm not saying it's a bad move either. I mean, with the pawn there, it also stops the bishop from coming down here at some point. So it's kind of interesting. You see a lot of more advanced players do. They play moves in order to constrain their opponent and to prevent their opponent's ideas. But the pawns around your king, I think unless you have to move them, I generally won't move them. Unless, for example, I'm doing a pawn break. Right, if there's a pawn here, I might throw my h-pawn up, h4, h5, something like that. Anyway, so knight retreats, fair enough, but retreats to a very weird square, right? So from there, look, it's only covering 4 squares out of its maximum 8. If it had gone back here, full 8 squares. Okay, and now d3. Now this comes with a discovered attack by the bishop on the knight. So should black make moves to castle, then that move becomes interesting, right? So let's say if we moved this bishop out here, or let's say even castled, then you go bang and prise open the king. Okay, here we have the same on the other side of the board. A6. Now this is a standard move against the Spanish. Also notice that white's now played d3, so the bishop can't actually get back to this side of the board. It's kind of stuck on this side of the pawn chain now. Right, but this is a decent square. This diagonal, that's where he wants to get onto. So I would think bishop c4 now. Oh no, okay, so bishop trades the knight. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know about that. I mean, I think that was a good bishop potentially. And this knight being the queen's knight, being a bit further away from the enemy king. I don't know. Don't know if that was a good trade. And now, okay, now we grab off the knight here. So what you see white's done now is given black 2 pairs of double pawns. That's going to make it very hard for this guy to get to safety. He ain't going there. And this is dubious as well. White, however, has a pretty good pawn structure. Okay, I like this. h3, you probably wish you hadn't played at some point, I don't know. But, I mean, just think of like ideas like queen comes to here, say, and then bishop takes h3, which is not possible if the pawn hadn't moved. Okay, so d4 pawn break in the middle. This would be good if pawn takes. You've got, I think, probably queen takes is best. That would hit this rook. Now, does black bite and capture the pawn? No, correct, well done. Didn't do that. d5 is an idea here. Hits the bishop. And if pawn takes, you've got pawn takes, hitting the bishop again. You really do want to open up the middle of the board. When your king is castled and your opponent's isn't, you go for the central pawns. Okay, d5, like it, nice. Okay, now what do we do? Do we capture? We capture and bishop recaptures. That kind of improves the bishop, but again, it kind of opens up some space. But no, queen d2. d2. Well, where's the queen heading? Because she can't capture that, can't go there, can't go there. Just getting off the back rank, maybe. Maybe the idea is centralize the rooks and start just pushing pawns and try and break through in the middle. Okay, rook attacks, b3, rook attacks. Okay, and here you see, like, I see your attack, but it's not conclusive. However, it does allow, look at what we said, bishop takes h3, right? Pawn can't recapture because it's now pinned. This pawn is pinned on the king, can't recapture. Yeah? So, that's not playable. So I think we've missed the threat there. Okay, queen comes out now. Queen e3, okay. Queen across, now threatening mate with queen takes g2. Now here a decent move is knight h4, which hits the queen and defends the pawn. Okay, but we have g3. This pawn is now hanging because it's undefended and under attack. Black doesn't notice that. It's starting to get a bit hairy now for white. Okay. So queen g5 proposing a trade, but giving up a knight. Wow. Wow. h4, kicking the rook. Rook retreats. Interesting, interesting. So now we have a situation where white has the preferable pawn structure, if a little bit more space than maybe he'd like. White only has a knight. Black has the bishop pair. What's going to happen? Right, centralize the rooks. Good practice. Again, this is a threat. Bishop takes h4. Pawn can't recapture because it's pinned. Right? Okay, so king moves. So now if the bishop takes the pawn, pawn takes bishop, and we're okay. Okay. King's going on a little walk. Here, surely f3, right? You have to stop. Every time something's under attack, never react. How long did white spend over that move? 1.5 seconds. Okay? Dude, you've got nearly 10 minutes on the clock. f3 here. f3 forces the bishop to go to here, or here, or here. And your worries are over. But this drops the exchange. So now we're down a full rook. Okay, how is white going to survive this? You want to be thinking about, where is this knight going to go? Where do I want this knight to go? It kind of wants to go here. That would be a great place for it. It's an outpost. Here is good. Okay, king b1. Moving himself in line with the rook. That would cause me a heart flutter. The rook now comes down attacking the f2 pawn here. Rook f1. I think also as an alternative here, rook e2 might also be good. Getting your rooks onto your own second rank can be a good idea. It's defending that pawn. It's also defending this pawn another time. And you see, we all very often end up with a few pawns left over on the second rank, 7th rank, yeah? And so that can be a target for rooks and queens towards the end of the game. Okay, pawn is now attacking the pinned piece. This pawn is pinned, so can't capture. King moves, rook moves, pawn takes. Okay, we've won a pawn. Okay, this is now available for en passant capture. You can see, because we've got a pawn on the 5th rank, and this pawn has moved through the capture square, so you can capture. And we do indeed have the en passant. Okay, now I think I would definitely want to get my knight into here, right? Get it onto a protected square, defended by 2 pawns, and then it's also supporting the c7 pawn push, and it's attacking the rook. So something must be done. Yeah, so where's the rook going to go? I mean, this is a horrible square. That's maybe okay. This is horrible. Rook comes down to f3. Okay, c7 now. This is much more encouraging. Attacking the bishop. And the bishop only really has 2 squares to go to. Well, only one, because f6 would just get... Oh no, it's defended by the rook there, isn't it? So where's he go? Okay, he goes to e7. Now, white can't just promote to a queen here because rook takes. So what are we going to do? Ah, that's a nice move. Hits the rook and protects the c8 square. So we could win a rook back here. Okay. I mean, it's hard to know what black can do here, really. Other than kind of put the rook in front, knight takes, king over here. Knight moves away, king grabs pawn. I mean, that's the best option you've got, I think. But that's certainly not the best option, allowing the queen. Okay, queen now moves to b8. Bishop's pinned. So queen's attacking the rook. Rook moves away. Knight comes back now to attack the rook again. Again, bishop can't recapture because it's still pinned. Okay, this is nice. Queen fork. Queens are masters at forks because they've got so many options. Good move by white. Wins the rook, and the game should now be a formalite. So another queen fork here. Queen's attacking both the bishop and the rook. Black cannot save both. Loses the rook, and the game is over. Good recovery, Thin White Duke, mate. But you had me going a little bit there. I think this pawn move towards the end, with the en passant capture. You know, black was really in a commanding position here. A full rook in front, and for some reason just decides to play this move. See, from this situation, let's just flip the board, right? I'm black. I'm a rook up. Okay, let's see it from black's point of view. Let's see how I might read the board here. Well, I think, you know, rook up to f3 looks fairly natural. Attacks the knight. But I think one of the first things I'd be looking at doing is getting a rook onto the b file and control that and trap this king in the corner. King is arguably white's most powerful piece, probably along with this rook right now. So I would want to trap the king and keep him trapped in there. Another thought is just to get my king off the back rank, give this rook some scope, maybe. And then black's biggest issue is pawns on dark squares and a dark squared bishop. So you want to be thinking about a plan for the bishop. What can the bishop do? How can the bishop get into the game? So if you can put the bishop anywhere, I think even just something like this would be good. Just here, just controlling this nice diagonal between the lines of pawns there. Something like that should be absolutely fine. Get the rook over here, something like that. But c5 now, and then pawn captures. You're just creating a problem there for no reason. Okay, well, let's move on to game number 2. This is exciting stuff. This is not the longest game in the world, right? So this is by my buddy Mr. Rookie Rook, rated just under 1400. A nice neighborhood. I visited it myself recently. And Amit Biswas, 9732, and who's rated 1344. So we have e4, e5 from Rookie Rook as black. Okay, king's pawn, normal stuff. The Relopez. All right. Now, we see you mentioned this in the last game, a6, the bishop kick in the Relopez. Now, one difference here is that it's not one of the king's pawns, yeah? Yeah, you don't really want to be kicking with a castled king's defensive pawn. But anyway, so, okay, exchange variation. Right, this is all book stuff. And recapture with the d pawn. You don't recapture with the b pawn here. This opens up the queen, controls squares on the board, right? You recapture with this pawn, what have you achieved, right? There's no forward options for the queen, and this bishop only has one square to go to, right? So d takes. And now d4 from white. We have pawn takes, queen takes, rook g4. Right, the knight is not pinned, but we're attacking. Queen is under attack, but rook can recapture. Let's see what happens. Queen takes, rook takes. No, you didn't just do that. Okay, puzzle time. White to play and win. You did not just do that. Rook d1. Checkmate. Game over. Well, that was quick. What was this, a 10-minute game? And white managed to lose it. Wow, and he's 1300 rated. Wow, lose it in 19 seconds flat. That is some kind of cool record. Wow, yeah, that's how not to play the Ruy Lopez. All right, game number 3. Now this is from a match between two clubs. This was sent to me by Aardvark CYA, who's in the 1800s, against Tim D. Farnham, who's in the 1700s, and both Brits. So we got e4, e5. Stop me if you've seen this before. The bishop's opening now, bringing the bishop out to c4. Some people favour this. It can be quite tricky and trappy. Might be worth a look. Knight to f6 now. Attacking the undefended pawn on e4. What are we going to do? We ignore the threat and play d4. The Ponziani Gambit, huh? Bishop's opening, pearl in defence, Ponziani Gambit. Wow. Pawn takes. Knight to f3 was still ignoring the proffered pawn. Because if the knight takes now, of course, look, you've got queen e2. Knight is pinned. So it's going to have to be defended by a pawn. Or something. So yeah, interesting this. Leaving the pawn there. White castle, so we have knight c6, knight castles. Knight captures. Now something's coming onto the e-file. Yeah, rook e1. Okay. Also notice that white has 2 attackers on this pawn against only 1 defender. d5 now. Bishop takes d5. Huh. Okay. Now, I can't see the point to this, because surely queen's going to recapture and we've just gone down a piece for a pawn. Okay. I mean, guys, if you can see white's plan here, shout at the screen, because I can't figure it out at this point. Okay, that's an idea. Knight to c3. Now, this pawn can't capture because it's pinned and the queen is undefended. So if pawn takes, your queen takes, queen wins, right? The knight can't capture because the knight's pinned on the king. Wow. And now, white is attacking both queen and knight. The knight is attacked twice, once, twice, defended only by a lady. Wow. How cool is that? So this is now moved into the Italian game 2 knight Scotch Gambit Anderson attack. Go figure. Queen moves across. Knight now captures. So you've got a choice here, and this is a key choice that you see a lot, right? When you've got the option of capturing with a straight line piece, so you've got your rook or your bishop or your queen, which comes with check, right? That's option 1. The other option is to capture with the other piece, which doesn't come with check, but which does come with the threat of a discovered check. Now here, if white gets to play knight to f6 on the next move, victory, okay? Because it comes with check by the rook and the queen's under attack. So that would be the end of the queen. Hang on. Hold on a moment. Oh, okay, here, knight to here. You've got pawn takes, and I was just thinking that might still be on, but obviously bishop can't take as bishop would be pinned. But you do have pawn takes. Okay. And clearly, Aardvark CYA is too smart for that. Okay, so bishop out here, double defended by a pair of heavy bodyguards, right? So the bishop could capture, but then the recapture could come with check. Instead, we have a counter pin, bishop g4. Do you know what? I need to check out this opening. This trap that was cool. Okay, bishop takes e7, bishop takes f3. What? What the hey? What the hey? Okay. Now I wouldn't have played that move, but is that a really good move? What is that? Attacking. Okay, so we've got check. It's a royal fork attacking king and queen. So this pretty much forces pawn takes, yeah? And then bishop can recapture with check. That's a brilliant move. Knight to f6, pawn takes, but we've just given up a knight, right? At this point, white is a pawn down. Knight to there, pawn takes, bishop takes, with check and attacking the rook. My mind is blown. King moves, but the queen's under attack, of course. Queen d3. Okay, so attacking the bishop kind of a second time, also attacking the rook. Wow. Knight comes down now, hassling the queen. Right, now, puzzle time. What on earth do we do here? Bishop's attacking the rook. Pawn's attacking the bishop. Knight's attacking the queen. It's all kicking off. Okay, so here white plays simple. Bishop to e7. Check. The king has moved. The king is struggling for defense. Queen's also attacking this. King is going to have to move. Okay. And that could allow queen takes bishop. Do we see that? No. Wow! It was a fork! What fun! Ah, bishop takes knight. Boom! What a game! Bishop now retreats, because obviously it's under attack by the queen and the pawn. So yeah, I mean, moving the pawn would not be great for white, but to win the bishop... Okay, now queen grabs pawn. Free stuff. Okay, I spy with my little eye something beginning with checkmate threat. So, what must be done? G3. Okay, now, there's lots of ways that you can defend against the check like this, right? This is not one of them. Okay, F3, it looks like it stops it, but then bishop takes the pawn, and the pawn can't recapture because it's pinned, right? So that's one way, one thing that you can do, right? But here, G3 is pretty good. I mean, here, white is actually putting all his pawns on dark squares, which does allow this bishop to penetrate through, okay? But maybe that's okay. Okay, rook comes across to hassle the queen. Queen lines up with the king, see? Pinning this pawn. We've seen lots of pins, pins, pins. Rook d1, proposing a trade of rooks. Yeah, I didn't think black could go for that. And now we have rook to h6, so the rook lift. I think we might see rook to g6, and then probably h4. So h4 by white now prevents black from pushing forward. This is a very, very good prophylactic move, right? You know, we talk about, like in the first game, don't move this pawn in front of your king unless you have to. Well, here it works, okay? Because just imagine, right, if white had just played something like little pointless, yeah? You've got this now. Pawn can't capture at all, right? Then the rook's going to come in. It's going to look nasty. Also notice here as well that actually white has... oh, no, he doesn't. I was going to say could put the bishop there with a skewer on the queen, but actually it's attacked twice by queen and rook. So that wouldn't work. Wouldn't work, pal. Alright. So queen obviously attacked by the pawn. Let's just move back here. Yeah, bishop c3 attacks the queen again. Trade of rooks. Queen. Ooh. Wow. Queen into f3. Now threatening mate there or there. Okay. Now it's got sharp. But, you know, double-edged. This sharpness goes both ways because white also has threats. Rook d8, I think, is forced at this point. It has to come with check. Now the king hasn't got these because of the bishop there. There's only two moves. Got blocked with the bishop, pointless, rook just takes, or king to h7. King to h7 is played. Rook to h8 check. Well spotted. Defended here by the bishop. Again, there's only one legal move. Yeah, can't be blocked. So king has to come here. Rook g8 check. Again, these dark squares are out of bounds. This is out. The king has to move to one of these. Now, which way would you move? In the game, black plays king f5. And now rook to g5 is actually checkmate. All these are guarded. These are guarded by the bishop. These are guarded by the queen. And so is that. All over checkmate. What a game. What a game. You see things in there that, like I did, that I would never have seen that or played it. Okay, bishop's opening. I might have to try this bishop's opening thing. If you can prise the Vienna out of my cold dead fingers, I might have to try the bishop's opening. Ponziani Gambit. Surely you're going to see this a bunch, right? Bring out the bishop. What's more natural than bring out the king's knight? Yeah? You'll see this all the time. Knights before bishops, and generally the king's minor pieces before the queen's minor pieces. Why does that make sense? Well, bringing out the king's knight means you've moved one of the two pieces that you need to move in order to castle. On the queen side, you've got to move three pieces in order to castle, right? So bringing out the king's knight makes sense. It's also defending this square here. It's also blocking off Freddie the f-pawn as well. So, most natural move in the world. And now d4, Ponziani Gambit. Pawn takes, knight out, knight out. Then the knight takes, and boom. And then inviting the queen out, sacrificing the bishop to win the knight. I love this. I'm going to have to explore that myself. Okay. Wow, guys. 3 definitely fun games that lived up to their billing. I think this the second one, the kind of 8-move checkmate from the Ruy Lopez was kind of embarrassing, but hey, this one was an absolute treat. So thanks, Aardvark. Really appreciate it, mate. Thank you for watching. Hope you picked up some stuff. I've certainly enjoyed it. See you soon.